Welcome back to 630 POV here on election night 2012. And joining us right now is Peter Baliga. And you're here to talk about some Minnesota politics.
Yes, we've got some things going on over there on the other side
just
of the
a few.
river.
We don't want to forget about the other side of the river.
No.
Items, you bet.
So, number one, thanks for being here, Peter. Appreciate you doing this.
Enjoy
I know
it.
you have got some expertise in Minnesota. I want to start with the Minnesota Marriage Amendment. Obviously, that's been a very heated topic, a lot of heated debates. Latest polling that you've seen on this, does this thing have a chance to pass?
It does, and I would say both of these are extremely tight. They're going to be, we're going to be up late at night trying to see what the results are here.
I think one of the things that's fascinating that's been sort of an unspoken is that if you actually don't place a vote, it counts as a no vote. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And still today there's a lot of people that don't really understand that as they're out, waiting through to 8 o'clock to vote here tonight in Minnesota. But that is absolutely correct. If you're going to change the law, then it's got to be a positive change, particularly if you're going to change the Constitution. And so that means we're not going to do it on an accidental basis. And nobody was trying to play any fun and games here. The situation is simply, if you're going to change the Constitution, it needs to be an affirmative change.
So with that being said, do you think this thing passes?
Right now, from everything I've heard, I think that it will, but I think we're talking about maybe a percentage point here or there. And if it doesn't, that wouldn't surprise me either. It's going to be very, very close.
So with that being said as well, let's talk about obviously the Mitt Romney situation. Barack Obama brought Clinton in a couple times to Minnesota. Everyone thought there's no way Minnesota is going to be in play. A lot of pundits now are saying because of this Minnesota Marriage Amendment being on the ballot, that's where you're going to see a lot of evangelicals go out to vote, thus possibly having Romney win Minnesota. Is that any such reality?
It is possible. Okay, and
I know it's possible, but
yeah,
I mean,
well, and I'll tell you this: there was some polling that was released here just a couple of days ago. A gentleman by the name of Bolger, who did polling for Chip Cravok 2 years ago, so he is familiar with the state of Minnesota, and he's very familiar with close races in Minnesota. He's got it, as of his latest poll, as a 1-point Romney victory. Of course, it's within a 3-point margin of error. But he's got it at 47, 46, I believe. And what's happening is what we're seeing in Minnesota is the independents, who are always breaking at the end, they're breaking in double digits in favor of Romney.
Now, Minnesota hasn't elected a Republican president since, what, 1972?
Well, you've got to go back to Reagan, I think, is where you got to go.
I think even Mondale held that. Maybe it was over Carter.
First one, it was the Carter.
Let's get in the weeds a little bit here, a little bit more local. We've got District 4, Phil Hansen versus Kent Eakin. What are you seeing in that race?
That's going to be, it's going to be a very interesting race. It is an interesting race. Obviously, Phil has a lot of name recognition. He's an NDSU grad, had a very successful career before politics. Kent, however, is also a 5-time representative, has represented his district and has some significant recognition in the region, although not particularly with regard to some of the districts that he's running in now. They have both been running very hard. They have both generated a strong financial following, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens here. I'm thinking that Mr. Hansen is probably going to pull this out, but it's going to be close.
Strictly because of his name recognition, you think?
I wouldn't say strictly that. I think he's got his message has been one of fiscal responsibility. He feels very strongly about the fact that you don't spend money that you don't have, and that resonates with a lot of people, particularly in this presidential election where economics have been such a driving factor.
Let's go Representative Maury Lanning, obviously retiring. You've got Ben Leen versus Travis Remke. Who ends up winning that race in your opinion?
Well, simply because of Mr. Lanning's history there, and he has been on board with Travis since the beginning. And because Maury has such strong ties in with the Moorhead area, I think Travis has probably a little bit of a shot here on this, or at least I would give him a bit of the edge. However, that is also a district that generally it's about a +2, +3 Democrat district, though.
I mean, and one of the things that shocked me, you talk about a state legislative race, and Travis has been up on TV, which is very, very rare, especially how limited time we've had because of this North Dakota U.S. Senate race. you know, he may end up pulling this thing off. I know they both have been battling each other back and forth. Obviously, in District 4B as well, you got Paul Marquardt, very well-known name, current House member versus Paul Sandman. Does Paul Marquardt pull this off?
Oh, I think so. It's probably going to be the situation, simply because Mr. Marquardt has been so strong for so long, and he works hard. I mean, even though he is a you know, an incumbent in this district, he you know, he'll walk the blocks, he'll go to the parades, and he puts in the effort, which is something that's always needed. Sometimes you get candidates that think that they can, you know, after a while can coast, and that's not been Mr. Marquardt's mantra. He works his district.
Last Minnesota question for you. Michelle Bachmann had put in $19 million of her own money into her campaign.
That's crazy.
The thing has been very, very close until recently. Things started to lean towards Michelle Bachmann, former, presidential candidate, still battling in her district. Does she end up winning this race? And a large part due to maybe even this marriage amendment, and again, the evangelicals getting out to vote.
Well, I know that there's, you know, that has been part of the discussion as to whether these amendments are going to drive people to the polls. And when you get to the end stages, as we are now, it's turnout that's everything. Folks have decided who they're going to vote for. It's just whether or not they're going to make the effort to get out there and stand in line. And in Michelle's district, I think it's going to be probably pretty solid. I would expect her to win, although redistricting didn't do her too many favors either.
No, it didn't. Anything else you want to add about Minnesota?
There's more things we can talk about, but we'll mush on.
You got any updates on the national scene that's going on?
Update, let's go ahead and pull up the map. And actually, you know what? We're going to go ahead and toss the break. Thanks to Peter Baliga for joining us, and we're going to update those national numbers coming up right after the break.